Okay, welcome everyone to our DES 105 page layout tools live session. This is week 2 and I'm Shannon McNamara, your graphic arts instructor. So we have quite a bit going on this week. It's Thanksgiving week, so schedules are changing and I'm gonna kind of go over some of that today. So for this week, my telephone hours will be Monday through Wednesday from 9 a.m. Mountain Time to 4 p.m. Mountain Time, but you can email me. Just be aware that I am taking Thursday and Friday off for the holidays. So, you know, if it takes a little bit longer to get back to me, that's why there is a good chance I'm not going to be opening my email on Thanksgiving. I'm traveling for the holiday. It's going to be a bit of a hectic day. So I just want to make everyone aware. But we will be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week. I have a couple of announcements to go over. We'll go over the discussion question for this week. We're going to talk a bit about the CRAP rules of design: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. We'll take a quick peek at our assessment for week 2, and we'll go over our assignment for week 2. Also, there is a critique of week 1's assignments in the week 2 discussion post, so I'll show you that. A reminder about due dates: all assignments and assessments are due by Saturday at midnight for full credit. If you know that your work is going to be late, please communicate with me. That will save you some missed points. Also, I'll tell you this every single week: week 4 assignments cannot be turned in late. The course will turn into a pumpkin. It will lock you out. If something happens during week 4 when you are trying to upload and it locks out while you are uploading, make sure you immediately email your file to me. If you email your file to me immediately and I have it in my email Sunday morning when I go into grade, I will grade it. This is not everyone's policy, by the way. This is just my policy. So don't kind of rely on that in your other courses. Just know that in my course, if something happens and it closes you out of the course, I will take that file from you as long as it's in my email box when I get up in the morning to grade. Your original discussion posts are due Wednesday at midnight. You need to remember to respond to 2 of your fellow students, and that is by Saturday. And make sure you're posting on 2 different days. Also, if you missed the week 1 discussion, you have until this Saturday to submit it. After that, the week 1 discussion will close out. So as I was saying, there will be no multi-session this week due to the Thanksgiving holiday. I posted an announcement about this last week. How our live sessions are, still Monday today from 10 a.m. to noon. And again, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week. If you do need some outside help, the Student Success Center is open with tutoring available. However, they are closed on Thursday for the holiday as well, but they will be open on Friday and Wednesday. So let's go over into the course, take a look at some of our announcements. This is the announcement I was talking about from last week with the schedule change. I did put in, I believe, nope, not in that one. Let's see. I will try to post an announcement with the SSC hours, but you can view the hours right from the homepage. If you go to the Student Success Center, hours of operation, graphic arts, you will see that they're closed Thursday for Thanksgiving, but they still have some pretty good hours otherwise. So, if you do need that extra help, make sure that you're getting in. They're open until 9 p.m. Mountain Time, Monday and Tuesday, 11 p.m. on Wednesday, 5 p.m. on Friday, and then 10 p.m. on Saturday. So still some great hours this week even though they are closed on Thursday for the holiday. Let's get back to our course. There we go. All right, so I have a quick video in here for you to watch on how to view your annotations or your feedback in the gradebook. So if you are not quite sure how to view that, please make sure I left comments either on a PDF that I uploaded for you. I might have taken a screenshot and uploaded that with comments for you, or if you did upload the PDF and the zip file together, I left comments directly on the PDF. So this shows you how to view the comments left directly on the PDF in case if you haven't ever done that before. I have some tips for a successful week 2. So again, I will allow 1 resubmission per assignment or assessment. The auto-graded quizzes are exempt from that. The resubmissions must be completed by Tuesday of week 4, and discussions can't be resubmitted. If you're missing work from week 1, there's still time to fix this. Try and get those missing assignments or assessments in as soon as you can. There's still time to bring those grades up going into week 2. And then again, you know, my graphics I went over last week, and Adobe Help is offered on Friday from 10 to noon with Sean. So if you need any help, you know, either upgrading your Adobe or anything like that, you know, please make sure that you get in there with Sean. Wanda Bryant is our learning coach this mod, and here are her hours. So Monday she's off, but Tuesday she's in the Student Success Center from 5 to 9 p.m., off on Wednesday. Again, it's closed on Thursday. She has hours on Friday from 12 to 5, and she's off on Saturday. But again, even if she is not available, you can go and visit the Student Success Center anytime it's open. You're almost guaranteed that you will have a learning coach there that will be able to assist you in this course. And I have some links for you for some extra Adobe Help links. Again, that video for how to change your settings to default to inches, I have a video here for you if you haven't done that yet. The link to Adobe InDesign Help, how to use Adobe Typekit, and then another link to show you how to correctly package those files in InDesign. We went over that last week in the live session, but just in case. All right, so week 2, we're going to be talking about the introduction to the principles of design. Again, a critique of last week's assignment, applying what you just learned about the principles of design within the critique, and then we're going to talk about style sheets, our discussion, and our assignment and our assessment for this week. So there are 4 basic principles of design in graphic design. I mean, there's probably more, but these are the big ones that we're talking about all the time. And you'll hear about them in almost any of your design classes. They're contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. So as designers, our acronym is that we look for crap to know if our design is working. And it's one of those things where it's just kind of funny because obviously it's an oxymoron because we don't want our design to look like crap, but we do want it to have contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity in it. So contrast. What is contrast? It can mean a lot of different things. It ultimately means that there's change within the design. So that can be a change in size, you know, of different elements on the page. Elements can be the text. They can be your pictures, anything like that. There can be a change in color. There can be a change in direction, a change in typeface, a change in the weight of the typeface. Maybe you have something in Helvetica regular, and then you change up your headlines to be Helvetica bold to add in that contrast. So these changes bring emphasis, and they also create focal points within our design. So you can see some different examples of contrast right here. You know, differences in size, position, color, texture, shape, or even the orientation of the shapes. Each one makes it stand out a bit. So then we also have contrast when it comes to our typography, you know, in our color choices. And you can see I have 3 examples here. You know, 2 of them are some bad choices and 1 is a good choice. So, you know, green type on a red background, red type on a green background, bad color choice. It's hard on the eyes because these are 2 contrasting colors. So whenever you do this, your eye does not really know where to focus. And without fail, I'll always have somebody say, well, I can read it, no problem. And that's fine if you can read it, no problem. But I always tell this story. My father was red-green colorblind, which meant that everything that was red or green, he couldn't see those 2 colors. He only saw them as shades of gray. So if he was looking at something like this might look like just a gray box to him, and he won't be able to differentiate where the red ends and the green begins because it's just 2 very similar shades of gray, and he wouldn't be able to read it. So you need to be aware when we're designing things that we're not just designing it for us. You know, we are designing it to be able to be viewed by everyone. So we need to get rid of any limits that anyone might have, whether it be, you know, visual limits, you know, type that's too small, that's hard on the eyes to read, type that's too light on an also equally light background, again, harder on the eyes to read. You know, you want to make those good choices that are easy to read for everyone when it comes to your typography. So next we have repetition, and I sometimes find that repetition and proximity are the two elements of design that people have the hardest time kind of wrapping their brain around. So repetition represents consistency within a design. So we repeat elements so our design is cohesive. That can mean our typefaces, the size of our fonts, the color of our fonts, the leading. You know, those are all used consistently to create visual unity and harmony within our design, which again, ultimately makes it easier to read. So we're going to go over repetition today. Repetition ties in with creating the paragraph and character styles that we're going to create today when we design our menu. So here's some repetition, as you can see, and there's a bit of repetition going on here. We have the columns, they're all the same size. You know, these diagonal lines, there's that repetition of the diagonal lines kind of breaking up the columns. But then we also have a repetition in our typography. You can see that style sheets were used in this. So, you know, we have headlines that are the same size. You know, just, you know, a white on a dark background, a black on a light background. We have body copy that is the same size. And there's this consistent spacing throughout where the paragraphs break. Then, we have, you know, consistency in how we break out parts of the text, you know, something that we want to stand out a little bit in the sidebar. There's a consistency in the design, in the subheadlines. They're both that green color. And then the body copy that goes along with them, a little bit lighter than the body copy in the main part of the paragraphs. So there's style sheets were used to tell that text to look this certain way. We set up one style and we just apply it to our text. Oops, hold on, there we go. Also, let me just make this small for 1 second. Sometimes Zoom kind of takes over my screen. There we go. Next, we have alignment. So alignment's really important because it allows you to arrange elements in a way that matches how people naturally scan the page. It helps balance your image so that it's visually appealing, and it creates a visual connection between related elements. So you can have horizontal alignment and you can have vertical alignment. So in this example, the text is centered. All of the text itself as one element is centered within the page. And then we have even the two columns of text. They are left aligned and they are centered underneath this headline. And then we can vertically center. So after we center it horizontally, maybe we want it vertically centered within, a box that it will stand out from. So we make sure the spacing at the top and the spacing at the bottom is exactly the same. So here's some different examples of that alignment. You can align text to the edge, or along the, the top edge, the left edge. You can center align it. Center aligning body copy is a big no-no, however. It's better for smaller amounts of text. It's hard for our eyes to keep up with what line we are on if we center our body copy. So you don't want to do that. You always want to left justify paragraphs of text and just use center alignment in small amounts. Then we visually align. This is one of the ones where it's going to take some practice to kind of get this right, to get the eye for this. But for this, you can kind of see we're just subtly hanging the curve of the V here over the edge, really just ties that design together so much better. It visually aligns it. Even though it's technically precisely aligned on the left edge right here, it's just a better visual alignment to allow the curve to just subtly go over past where this text is. And then purposely misaligning text right here. That creates a great focal point. So next we have proximity. This is the other one where I said, it might be a little bit, take you a little while to kind of put this together, what it means. So the principle of proximity states that related items should be grouped together, so that way they'll be viewed as a group rather than viewed as several unrelated elements. So what are related elements? The parts of an address, those are related elements. The contact information, related elements. When it comes to our assignment, for week 1, the hours are related elements. You wouldn't put like Monday through Thursday over here and then Friday and Saturday down here. You want them to be together. So of these two examples of business cards, this one is the better design because the items that belong together are together. Instead of trying to go, all right, Joe's graphics, your eye's just all over the page here. So this is much easier to read, figure out where the information is that you need really quickly. So, all right, let's find the principles of design on this page. So I think what I can let you do is I believe I can give you the option to draw on the screen here, to annotate the screen. Does anybody want to try it to see if they can just kind of with their mouse or with their finger, depending if you're on like an iPad or something, draw on the screen? Actually, I can probably try it over here on my other iPad more. If I hit the little pen, I can kind of draw an arrow. See? All right. And then I think I can clear it out with the little, all right. So if you see the pen, option you can draw on the screen, and what we'll do is we will let's look at all of the different principles of design and find them on this slide. So where is my contrast? You can select anything, you know, draw a circle or draw a line around anything that that looks like contrast. And again, you have to look for the little pen that says, and underneath it it'll say, you know, Shannon McNamara's screen. That's what lets you draw. Or you can type in the chat if you want. Where do you see contrast? Anyone? We've got 6 people here. Did everybody come to the live session? Where the red box is. All right, yeah. The red box with the white type, definitely. That's contrast. The red lines, those are contrast. Yep, those are some good examples. So I'll use, I will use my iPad to kind of, I'll try to circle it. So we got the red lines in the red box, correct? So red will be our contrast. What about the larger type, the bold titles? Yes, somebody just said that. Awesome. So let's, the titles. Good, good. Where is our, oh, the blend line? The bleed, yes, right here. Like the difference in the white box with the background behind it. That's a really good example. Right, the gray and white, yes. What about repetition? Where's our repetition? The indents in the descriptions? Yes. All right, so repetition, we're going to do yellow. So right, and we'll do a rectangle. The indents in the descriptions, great. The alignment in the, right, in the amounts. Everything is, there's a consistency throughout this design, right? Especially in our text. All right, so we'll move on to green. Green will be our alignment. Where do we see alignment? The gutters. Yeah, that's great. Yes. So we have right here. Oh, there we go. Right here. The start of every menu item. Yes. So everything is, you know, left aligned. Exactly. And all of our prices are aligned as well. Somebody had already said that, but that goes with the alignment as well. What about our proximity? So again, this is that one where I said that might be a little bit difficult. Proximity is going to be purple. So where's our proximity? Michelle, I wasn't sure. Was that answered for proximity? So think of what proximity is. Keeping like things together. So what things have been kept together that are like things? All right, how about how all of the salads are kept together? Yep, the different categories. Exactly. So that's one example of proximity. Then we can get even deeper into it. What about how the Caesar salad has the description of the Caesar salad right underneath it, and then what comes with it? So this is all together. Each of these little sections. The spacing remains the same and it keeps it together. Or, the description of what goes with the cold sandwiches. So again, do you think that this menu right here is a really good example of using the CRAP principles of design? Oh, okay, I gotcha. It is. This is a really great example. Whoops. Wonder if I can clear this out. There we go. Clear. There we go. All right. Whew. That would have been tough to read. All right. So this is kind of a good segue to introduce our style sheets, because that's what our style sheets are going to do for us. They are going to organize our page. They're going to organize our text. And the styles are predetermined formats for text and objects. I apologize. My dog is sleeping down here and snoring, if you could hear that. So using styles is really a fast and efficient way to manage your formatting. So there's two types of styles that we're going to be working with. You have your character styles, which are character attributes such as font, stroke, and fills, leading, and kerning. And then you have paragraph styles, which controls the character attributes and the paragraph attributes such as tabs, indents, spacing, paragraph rules, and hyphenation. So we're going to set up some really basic styles this week and we're going to attach them to our menu text. So there are some styles here. And it will probably be easier for me to kind of just show you quickly where they are. So let's see. It's actually easier to do this on, oh, here we go. All right, on my iPad, but here we go. So here is one style right here in the style sheet. This would be our header. Within the style sheet. So you would set this up as a header, and you would set the font to be this size, to be this font, and then you would apply it to each of these items. Now the next one would be right here. Whoops, where's the served with areas. Each of these is a style sheet or a separate style. And that would probably be your description. I wish you could move. Oh, here we go. Select. All right. I was going to say, I want to move my text around. All right. So we got header and description. The next one would be right here, your items. I'm not going to do all of them. I'll just grab the ones in the hot sandwiches. Then you would have your item description. And then the last one I'll show you. Oops. There we go. Would be your prices. So there's a couple more, you know, in here, probably item add-ons would probably be another one that I can select. I need another color, one more color. Go with a gray. So probably right here. Your item add-ons. So these would be all of the different style sheets that are associated with this particular menu. So what you would do is you would set up your style sheet first. You would say header. All right, I want my headers to be this font at this size. I want my descriptions to be this font at this size. I want my items to be this font at this size. I want my item descriptions to be this font at this size. I want my prices to be this font at this size, and then those item add-ons, I want those to be this font at this size. And then all you would need to do is copy and paste all of your text in and go through and select hot sandwiches, hit the button that says header. Select cold sandwiches, hit the button that says header. So you don't need to keep going up and manually changing the font, manually changing the size. It'll just do it for you. So it automates a lot of that, which saves you time in the long run, and it also keeps your design nice and consistent. So we have a quiz again this week for our assessment, and this one's going to go into applying InDesign's text frame properties to create and link columns, preparing an InDesign document for print output using the package tool, creating and applying those paragraph and character styles to manage type consistency, identifying and applying the 4 basic principles of design: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity, and defining and applying the 5 basic elements of design, which are shape, line, color, texture, and value. So let's hop over into the course and take a look at our discussion for week 2. Actually, let's start off right at the front of week 2 and go over everything we're going to need to do this week. So you do have some readings and videos for week 2. You'll need to scroll down to week 2. There is videos on how to edit text, formatting text with the paragraph styles, formatting text with the character styles, creating and syncing colors, working with fonts from Typekit in InDesign, using those CRAP 4 basic principles of design, and then the elements of design. There is a video on that, on the shape, line, texture, color, texture, and value. Oh, texture's in there twice. And then also Introducing InDesign, there is a student, a lynda.com tutorial for chapter 7, and then an optional one for combining text and graphics as well. So don't forget to get into the lynda.com. You know, it's those couple steps you have to do. You have to go to modules and scroll down to the student access portal. Click here, then click here, then load it in the tab, and then go back to week 2, readings and videos. So I know it's a couple of steps, but they are some great videos. And then once you do that, grab the week 2 playlist. So again, it's kind of a back and forth process, but you know, really great videos this week. So make sure that you are getting in there and watching those. All right, so for our discussion this week, we're talking about the style sheets in our discussion as well. It's all about style. So repetition is one of the 4 principles used in layout design. Repetition is utilized to create unity within compositions. One of the primary places that repetition is employed is within typography. Consistent typography creates a cohesive professional look, as well as giving the viewer a subliminal roadmap around the finished piece. You're already using this principle when you write papers for your classes. All of the body copy on your paper is the same size. It has the same line spacing. All of the pages have the same margins, and so on. This is repetition at work. Within typography, another principle that's heavily used in typography is that alignment. While alignment means more than just lining the type to the left margin or to the right margin or even centering it, it also means aligning multiple text boxes or images within the composition. Going back to the example of papers that you've been writing for classes, think about when you utilize bullet points or you outline formats. The bullets or numbers are aligned, and when the text, and then the text next to it maintains that nice straight line as well. So this aids in organizing the information and creates a visual roadmap for the reader that we've been speaking about. Paragraph style sheets and character style sheets, those are regularly utilized in InDesign to make the job of the designer much easier while creating the cohesive elements necessary for a professional, polished design. For example, the designer of a magazine will set up paragraph styles that record all of the specifications, size, leading, tracking, and so on of the body copy used for articles, and then they can apply or change multiple characteristics with a single click. So let's say that you didn't use a style sheet and you set all of your headers to one font, and then your client says, I don't like that font. Well, now you would have to go through the entire magazine and change that font instead of just doing one click in your style sheet to change it. That's why it's so important. So properly setting up and utilizing style sheets in InDesign will give the designer a tool to help employ 2 of the principles that were discussed here. So for our prompt for this week, in this week's discussion, we learned how the use of style sheets can make layouts consistent to apply to 2 of the principles of design, repetition and alignment. Do you feel that restricting yourself by using style sheets hinders creativity? Find an example where you feel style sheets were used, but it's still unique and creative. You need to locate 3 places on the layout and tell us what type of style sheets may have been used, character or paragraph, to support a principle of repetition or alignment or both. Be sure to cite where the image came from and the artist name if possible. And there's a video here on how to embed images into the discussion using the images URL. For your reply post, look for other signs that the piece your fellow students presented most likely used or didn't use style sheets. Was it because of the poor use of repetition or alignment that wasn't already picked up on? Or was it something else that might have given you a clue? Your initial and reply posts should work together to develop a group understanding of this topic, challenge each other, build on each other. Always be respectful, but discuss this and figure it out together. So there's another way I can show you how to do this. This is the video that's going to show you how to just embed the URL in, but there's also another way as well. So let's see if I find a magazine layout. And I'll just grab this one. And then what I can do is I can open up the image in a new tab by right-clicking. And let's say that I want to save the image on my desktop first. So I can do a save as. I'll just put it in my downloads right now. Go back. If I click on where my face icon would be over here, mine just because I'm in student view just says test student, and then go to files. I'm just going to open it up in a new tab so I don't completely navigate away. What I can do is I can upload images into these files to reuse. So I'm going to upload that image I just downloaded. And now it's in here. And you might want to organize things when you upload them into files or into folders. So make a folder for Mod 12 and you can drag this into the folder so that way things are just a little bit more organized. Then what you would do is hit the reply button. And you want to click on embed image. It's that little icon that looks like the sun is rising over the mountains. Go to Canvas, my files. There's that Mod 12 folder I put in there. And here's my image. And then you would just click update and post reply. So you can see now I have an image in my discussion post. Now, one of the things that I have done this week is there are 4 different replies that I put in here for a week 2 critique. So I have 4 discussion threads. Each of them has 10 images, and I numbered them. And you can comment on the cover and reference the number, and this can count as one of your responses in the discussion this week. I just had to make a note, disregard the comment ticks that are on there, like this and this. It's from the Adobe file, and I thought when I saved them as JPEGs it would get rid of it, and it didn't. And honestly, there were 40 images, so it was just going to be too much to go through and remove every single comment from every single one. So just please disregard it this week. Here's your critique etiquette. Be kind, but be straightforward. Give suggestions. Talk about the work, not the artist. And then also, if your work gets critiqued, separate yourself from your work. You are not your work. Listen to the issues and come up with your own solution. So let's, try to help each other out. What do you think can be fixed? What do you think works? You want to respond to both of those things. I like to use the sandwich critique, which is, start off with something positive. Then get into the meat of the matter, what needs to be fixed, and then end with something positive. It's not a helpful critique to say, everything looks great, I love what you did. Because if everything looked great, everybody would have 100% this week. And we wouldn't need to learn anything. So keep that in mind. It's extremely helpful to have your work critiqued. So if you submitted your work on time and you submitted the PDF, it should be up here. If you only submitted an InDesign file and not a packaged InDesign file, or if your work was submitted late, that's why it has not showed up in the critique. If I missed anyone, I do apologize. That wasn't on purpose. I was trying to go through all the PDFs this morning and grab them all and put them all together. So again, that can count as one of your responses to your fellow student. You can respond via critique this week. Oh, that rhymed. All right. We also are going to get into our week 2 assignment. I just want to make sure I didn't have anything else, just same thing that I put in the discussion. So as we were discussing last week, we came up with 2 different menu covers for our client. And then this week, we're going to design the rest of the menu for our client. So what you're going to want to do is pick one. Pick one cover that you think works the best and go with that cover. And then we're going to match the feel of that cover to the rest of our menu. Because remember, you don't want to disregard all that design that you did for the menu and just pretend like it's a completely different piece. I did go over that already in the announcements. You can resubmit any assignment or assessment except for auto-graded quizzes one more time, once. Yep, to try to get a higher grade. So, think about that. You don't want to reinvent the wheel for page 2. It should, once somebody flips the page to the second page to read the menu, you want them to realize that they're still at the same restaurant. You don't want the the feel of the inside of the menu to be completely different from the outside of the menu, where they wonder, wait a minute, did something go wrong printing this? Am I at the right place? So, keep that in mind when you are doing your design for this week. So let's go over our background for this. A restaurant's menu does more than just inform the public of what they're serving. The stylistic choices that you will be making as a designer will tell the reader more about the food establishment than the words themselves. But in order to be able to style these words, it is imperative that a designer learns how to control the typographical and image tools that InDesign provides to create your menu. For example, if you were to want a color outside of white for the background of your menu, the rectangle tool is used to create a frame that spans the entire page. You would then fill the frame using a color from your swatch panel to give the appearance of a background. Several of the elements of design, including shape, color, and value, are applied to the page utilizing the rectangle tool or one of the other shape options it provides. One of the menus above shows flip-flops that are cropped on the corner of the page. This is concisely and neatly achieved using the rectangle frame tool. The entire image is within the frame, and we can crop it wherever we wish to without destroying any part of the image itself by adjusting the edge of the frame. If the layout changes, the image can be resized and recropped with ease. The rectangle frame tool would also be utilized to apply the elements of texture to the page. Developing a great understanding of the basic tools taught in this course will give you a jump start to creating a smooth workflow and allow you to spend more time applying the principles and elements of design rather than fighting to get what you see in your mind on the page. You'll begin to use the shape, image, and typography tools with the ease in which you currently use a pencil, paper, and scissors. An extensive list of tutorials that addresses each learning objective is found in the course materials page. These, along with the demos in the live session, will help you become familiar with InDesign's tools. So here's our prompt for this week. Your graphic design presentation, type choices, and overall look should reflect the price point, the market and target audience of the restaurant that you choose. Make sure that your menu can be read in both sunshine and candlelight. Your ultimate goal is to express the restaurant's personality in a visual way. For this assignment, you'll be finishing the project you started last week by adding the menu items for your restaurant. Please do not change restaurants. You need to use the same restaurant that you used last week. So, duplicate your week 1 menu cover file. You're going to rename it Assignment 2 and choose the strongest of the 2 cover designs. Delete the page of the cover that you did not choose to use and make revisions on the cover per my critique in the grade book. Add a new page to your InDesign document. Create a menu layout for the restaurant on the new page utilizing all the text provided. Remember, we downloaded all of those assets last week and the menu text was in there. At least 2 photos, again, that was in with your assets. Paragraph style sheets, character style sheets, custom color swatches, and tabs with leaders. Apply the CRAP principles, contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity, and elements of design, shape, line, texture, color, textures in here again, and value that you learned about this week. If you copy the layout from the example, your creativity score will be low. Know why? Because, again, your client wants a redesign. If your client came to you and said, you're a graphic designer, can you redesign my menu? And you design the same exact menu for him, do you think he's going to pay you for that? No. So we're redesigning it for our clients. So don't copy the example. When you're finished with your design, again, we'll create a package folder. Be sure that a quality screen resolution PDF is in your package. Go back to week 1. You need to create a PDF that has those crop and bleed marks in it. Zip the package folder and submit the zip file. The assets for this week's project are those that you downloaded in week 1. Should you need to download them again, you'll also find them below. Be sure to download the same restaurant that you did the cover on. Doing a cover on one restaurant and the menu side on a different restaurant will result in no points. So again, here's the assets if you need them again. And I might need some menu text to do my example today. I have to double check. I forget what I have. Let's take a look at my stuff, not yours. You guys are good to go. Oh, I do have menu text. All right. Perfect. So don't forget to look over the rubric and make sure you have everything in your assignment before you submit it. And then again, a reminder, week 2's assessment is a quiz. There are 14 questions. It's worth 50 points. There is no time limit. If you get stuck, go back to the readings and videos. Look up the answer. You know, don't guess. Double check things because you can only take it once. All right. So let's put this together. This is the easiest way that I find to do this, and I've been doing this for a long time. Go to your week 1, and again, this is where having things separated, your week folders, everything nice and organized is going to make your life easier. Go to that folder that you zipped with your assignment. I'm going to open it up. And once you have it open, do File, Save As. And then again, you're going to navigate over to week 2. I'm going to do mod 12, just because I already had a folder there. And just change it from assignment 1 to assignment 2 and save it in that folder for now. You can double check that it's in there. Perfect. And once you open that and you see this IDLK file, that's how you know you're working in the assignment too. You can also look at the naming convention. So that'll help you out as well. So right now, what you guys have is you have 2 menus on each page. And what it's telling you to do is to just delete page 2. So that is one way that you can do that. It might make it easier to do it. So if you open up your pages panel, and again, what if you like the design on page 1 better than you like the design on page 2, then you would delete page 2. If you like the design on page 2 better than you like the design on page 1, then you would delete page 1. It's whichever one you want, but it still resides in your assignment 1, both of them. So if you change your mind and you're like, man, I just like that other cover better, you can go back and grab it from your assignment from week 1. So I am going to just make life easy and delete page 2. And it's going to give me this warning. It has objects. I'm going to say, yep, that's fine. And then I still need a 2-page document. So I'm just going to click create a new page, and it's going to just make me a new blank page 2. Easy peasy. You know, so much easier than trying to grab everything and delete it. All right, so again, I have a doc file of my own with a casual dining menu. Yes, you should be making adjustments to your cover because you need to make adjustments to your cover based on the critique that I left you in the grade book. So yes. So you're going to, at this point, you are not going to typeset any of this menu. You are given a doc file that has all of the menu items in it. And I'm going to give you another little tip that I have learned. When I'm setting up paragraph styles and I need to think about, all right, you know what? I need an item description and price, you know, things like that, headlines, things like that. I like to actually preset this up in Word so it gives me a visual in Word that I can then kind of translate over to InDesign. So when I'm going back and forth between the programs, I know what I'm looking at. So I have appetizers, entrees, and desserts. And those seem to be my 3 main sections here. So I'm going to grab appetizers and I'm going to give it title. Entrees, give it title. And desserts, give it a title. Again, I wouldn't make them this big probably in my design and InDesign, but it just gives me a visual over here. Then I have each item and the price, and I'm probably going to make those the same typeface, the same font, the same font size. So I'm just going to give these heading 1. And then I have the item descriptions, which I can kind of leave as is if I want, or I can just do this italics for the subtle emphasis, again, just to kind of see. And then when I'm going through and I need to say which is which is which, I already kind of know. And then this is probably going to be my small type down at the bottom. I'll kind of change that to this. It's a little bit different than everything else. You should have at least 3 different paragraph styles. One for, appetizers, entrees, desserts, whatever your menu has. One for the item name and price, and then one for the item description. 3. I need to see at least 3 on your page. But first we need to set them up. And we need to kind of think to ourselves, all right, how do I start? There's going to be some tweaking. You're not going to pick the font and the font size and have it work immediately and it just all of a sudden works. Like, there's going to be tweaking, and that's where using those paragraph styles really comes in. But let's go back to our InDesign page. All right. So what I want to do first is I actually want to put a baseline grid on my page. Think about when you're writing on paper. Isn't it so much easier to keep your pages organized when you write on lined paper and you can visually see the lines that you're going to put your text on, rather than writing on non-lined paper and trying to keep everything nice and straight? It's kind of the same thing when you're in InDesign. So we can actually set up a baseline grid that isn't going to print, but it's just there in the background for us. So again, you kind of need to know your font size and your leading to set up your baseline grid. So I like to base my baseline grid off of my body copy. And a good body copy size is probably going to be about 12-point type with 14-point leading. So I'm going to start off, and again, if I find out it doesn't work and I need to adjust my baseline grid afterwards, I can go back in and fix that. So here's how we set up that grid. We're going to go up to InDesign Preferences and go to Grids first. And it's right here, Baseline Grid. And they'll say, do you want to start at 0.5 relative to the top of the page? 0.5 is usually where your margins are, but our margins are set at 0.375. So I'm going to want it to start at my top margin. So I want it to start at 0.375, top of the page, and I want the increment to be every 14 points, which is the spacing between my body copy. And then I need to unclick grids and back, because for some reason it defaults to put the grid behind the page where we can't see it. And I don't know about you, but the whole point of the grid for me is to be able to see it. Yes, when you do make that new page, it does copy the settings that you have set for your bleed and everything else as page 1. Yep, it recopies all of your settings so you don't have to go back in. Good question. And I'm going to make my, the light blue is probably an okay color. Sometimes you also have to change the threshold to 65% to get it to show. It's these, I don't know why, it's just one of these weird things that I've noticed in InDesign, and then hit OK. And you'll notice that we don't see it. That's because you'll probably have to go to View, go to Grids and Guides, and show the baseline grid. And then you still might not see it. And you'll have to zoom in a little. Very weird. But you can see that it starts right at our margin and it goes right down to the bottom of the page. And when I set up my paragraph styles, I'm going to tell my body copy to align itself to this grid to keep it all nice and aligned. Again, because that's that repetition that I'm doing. So I want my design and my menu for this week to be 2 columns. So I am going to actually set that up in my layout. I'm going to go to margins and columns, and I'm going to change this to 2 columns. And I want my gutter to be a little bit bigger than the default. I'm going to make my gutter maybe probably 0.375, the same as my margin. I'm going to keep it nice and equal, and then I'll hit OK. So then when I draw my text boxes, or I get my spinning beach ball, come on, I can make sure that I make 2 equal sized text boxes, one for each column. I'm going to save this as well. Because remember, when things start to spin, save and save often. So I'll draw 1 text box and 2 text boxes. There we go. And first thing I'm going to do is I am just going to copy everything. Do a Command A in my doc file. I'm going to copy everything in. Just into the default text. And you'll notice when I do that, it runs off the bottom, and I get this red box here with a plus sign, which when you zoom in does not get any bigger, and I wish it would. You know what? I'm not sure, Michelle, if there's a way to change the settings for, I'm assuming for the guides and the margins. I'm not sure. That might be something that you would have to Google. So where I have my text, this is called overset text or overflow text. I want this text to flow into this second text box here. And the reason why I'm not just copying half of it in and then just copying the other half in is when I start to adjust things, lines might come up, so it might draw text from this text box, or it might get bigger and put more text into this text box. So I want this to act like a system of pipes where it flows from one pipe right into the other pipe. So with my black arrow key, I'm going to click on the red box right here. And you'll notice that if I kind of had to click twice, and I get this lock icon, and it looks like text next to it. I'm going to click into my second text box, and again, it overflows into that text box. So then when I make my text bigger, see what happens? When I make my text smaller, see what happens? It acts like that pipe. Now I need to start thinking about putting together those paragraph styles. And I'm going to go back up to my cover because I've already started to make some font choices on my cover. I have a script font, this Suave script. I also have Gaudi Old Style as my serif font. So I'm not going to use completely different fonts. I'm not going to use two completely different fonts, in my menu. I'm not going to pretend that my menu cover doesn't exist. No, for week 2, you're only using for week 2, you choose one of the covers, your best cover, and then you're putting the menu on side 2 for week 2. So again, I'm not reinventing the wheel with my design this week. So maybe I'll use this Suave script as my headlines for, the appetizers, entrees, and desserts, and then use my Gaudi Old Style for this text. So that's something I can think about doing. And again, I also have some colors that I've already created. I have a color scheme and some swatches that I brought in. Remember from last week, I have this nice kind of ruby reddish color and this gold color. So I can use those somewhere in my design. I also have this nice background that I've created. Why don't I, kind of copy that back here? So there's some elements of the design that I can implement, based on my cover inside of my menu. So first things first, let's try to come up with, and you can see how my lines aren't on the line, my text isn't on the lines yet, and that's because I haven't set up a paragraph style. So if your paragraph styles are not showing up in your sidebar over here, you want to go to Window, down to Styles, and open paragraph styles. And I like to, when I'm working in them, I like to kind of drag them out, just so that way they're over off to the side over here. It makes it a little bit easier than having to pop them out all the time. So I'm going to create my first style by hitting on this the blank sheet of paper here that says create new style. And I'm going to rename it. I'm going to double click on it, and it's going to open up this option box. I'm going to rename this headers, because those are my headlines, like, you know, my entrees, my appetizers, my desserts. And it'll say based on, I don't need it based on any style, so I can just leave that there. I'm going to go to basic character formats, and I want to pick that script font. What did I say it was called? Suave Script Pro. And probably need it to be around maybe 20 point type, we'll see. And I want it to be that ruby red color that I was using. So I'll go down to character color, and then I'm going to hit OK. And one of the things that is happening is my appetizers is in all caps, and you never want to use a script font with all caps. So I'm going to need to fix that. Appetizers, same thing with entrees. Entrees. And where's my desserts? Dessert. And then I'm just going to select that line of text right there and click on headers. And I can see I already probably need it to be a little bit bigger. So let me make it as big as I want. And it's 52 point now. See how it gave me that little plus sign? What I'm going to do is right click on headers, and I'm going to redefine that style to what I just set it as. But I also need to add in some spacing underneath. So I'm going to go back into my headers, and I'm going to go down to indents and spacing. And I need to add some space after, because I don't want the text running into my descenders on the P and the Z right there. So I'm going to click until it's kind of out of the way. Maybe, yeah, might need the full 0.4375 after. And I'll hit OK. And then I'll go down to the next one, to entrees. Click on headers and desserts, and click on headers. And that brings that up into the next column. All right, next thing I need to do is referencing back. So I took care of this one. Next I have my my item descriptions and price. I want to make those the same size. So I'm going to make a new style sheet. And again, it's going to name it paragraph style 1. I'm going to double click, not on the name, but kind of off to the left, and that's what opens up that option. And this one I'm going to call items and prices. Basic character formats. For this, I'm going to use that Gaudi old style, but I'm going to make it bold and probably 14 maybe point type, maybe 15. And kind of have to look and see what I'm doing. Under indents and spacing, I want to align this to my grid. I want to sit on that line. And then under character color, I'm going to make this one the red too, and hit OK. So now I'm going to select each item and price. Oops. And you can already see I'm going to have to go in and make some adjustments, and that's okay. Next, I need to do my item descriptions right here. So again, I'm going to make a new style. I'm going to call this item descriptions. Go to my basic character formats. I want it to be Gaudi, regular, 12/14. And this is where everything's going to come into play with my grid. When I go to indents and spacing and I align it to that grid, it's going to perfectly sit because I had my grid set at every 14 points. And then I will hit OK there. And then I have to go into each one. I'm holding down, to select more than one word, what I'm doing is I'm putting my cursor down, I'm holding down Shift, and then I'm using my arrow, the down arrow, to select the type. And then I'll select item description, item description, make sure I get all of it, and item description. And then I have this kind of like this small type that I don't really need to stand out at all, you know, cooked to order, consuming raw or undercooked meats and poultry, blah, blah, blah. You always see that on a menu. So I'm just going to make a new style, and I'm going to call this small type. And again, I want to make sure it's also that Gaudi. But this one I'm going to just make 10-point type over 12-point type. And I'm not going to tell it to align the grid because there's a good choice. There's a good chance that I might move this around. Small type. All right, so I have a lot of space here. And you can look and see that I actually have, whoops, kind of some extra returns here. I'm going to get rid of those extra returns. I don't really feel like I need them in between the items. And then that brings this back up to the top of that column, which is great. But this spacing, you know, it works up here, but it seems so far away down here. I've got 3 lines, and I technically only have, you know, kind of 2 lines here. I'm gonna fudge this one a little bit. So I'm going to go over to paragraph, not paragraph style, but just paragraph. And I'm going to bump this up so now there's only 3 lines. And you'll see how it adds that plus sign. I'm not going to adjust it because I don't want this one to bump up and this one to bump up. I only wanted that one. And see how technically now they're visually aligned with each other. Where before it just felt like this one was a much larger space. So you can kind of make those little adjustments on your own. All right, so the next thing that you need to add, I'm going to save this because I don't want to forget to save, and it's in your it's in the assignment, is you're going to need to have tabs with leaders. And I want to show you an example of that. Menu with tabs and leaders. Let me see if I can find just an image. This is kind of a good example. Right here. Here's a good example. So see how there's these dots and the numbers all line up on the right-hand side, and there's an equal spacing of dots between the word and the number. We're going to set that up as a style in here. And we can actually adjust one of our styles that we have. So I want there to be an equal number of dots between queso spinach dip and $8.29, and I want the prices to line up against the, right against my margin here, my right-hand margin on each side. So I'm going to double click on items and prices, and I'm going to go down to tabs. And sometimes it's easier to try to line the box up, but watch what happens. Again, you're going to have to kind of move things around on the screen a little bit. Let me actually cancel this out and just kind of scroll this up a little. Double click, go down to tabs. There we go. All right. So we have this lighter of the dark gray bars and then the really dark gray bar down here. In this part of the bar right here, you're going to want to click, and it's going to add in an arrow. And you can kind of see the arrow moving in my text box. I want it to be right justified, and see how there's a tab in between the item name and the price? I'm going to grab this and drag it right to the end, right on that line. And then I'm going to add a leader of a period. Just kind of hit tab to get myself out of that. And see how it adds in the dots and it right aligns all of my prices. And I'll hit OK. Now they all are right aligned and they have an equal number of dots in between. And this is where using those paragraph styles, could you imagine if you sat here and hit period and then tried to get the right number of periods in without it bumping your price point to the next line? It would take you forever to do this. So it fixed it for all of them. And it even bumped my $5.99 up where I needed it to be. So this one didn't have a price point. I mean, I can add one in. All I would have to do is hit tab, $3.99 if I wanted to. Yep, I'll definitely show that again. This one is one that I think people have the hardest time with. So first off, click on your items and prices. Just kind of move the box out of the way so you can see what you're doing. Go down to tabs, and you can see that my tab is already there. So I can remove it by clicking clear all when I click on the arrow. I want mine to be right justified. You can make the decision on which way you want it to be. You can have it align in the center. You can have it aligned to the decimal. I like them, personally, I like it to be right aligned. You need to click right in here in this part of the screen. And you can see showing it on the other box, but I'm going to line it right up on the edge and add in a leader of a period. And then I just hit the tab button to get myself out of that box so I can see what it did. And there it is. And then you would just hit OK. And it added all those, the periods in. You want to make sure that there is only one tab in between. So if there were two here, it would screw it up. So you might need to go in and kind of select the spacing in between and hit the tab key just to double check that you just have one in there if it doesn't add in the periods correctly. And the reason why I use the right align as opposed to the left align is it's going to align them based on the last number, not based on the first number. So some of these prices have only 3 numbers, but some of them have 4 numbers. So if I left aligned them, it might accidentally bump them to the next line. So that's another reason why I line it up right aligned to the edge. Just because it's one of those things where I've been doing this for such a long time that I'm like, here we go. I know how to set this up. All right, so I've really set up my text here. I've got, you know, all my text on the page. I've got it, you know, nice and stylized, but my menu's definitely still lacking. I need to add in, you know, my photos. This is paragraph and character style sheets. Really, you just need the paragraph style sheets this week. If there's a reason where you need to change one character, you would use a character style sheet, but I don't think that you guys are going to run into that this week. So don't worry about that if you only have paragraph styles. Don't worry about that. And then custom color swatches. Go back to last week when I did those custom color swatches and I showed you how to do that. You're going to need to have, you know, some custom colors, not just your standard palette of Adobe default colors. All right, so I have, well, I have this section which I want to put somewhere else. So I'm going to select it and just do a Command X to take it out. And I'm going to draw a new text box over here. I'm just going to kind of plop that down over there for a second until I decide what it is that I'm doing with it. And maybe I even want to break up my entrees. I might do something similar there too. I'm just getting crazy right now. I'm getting crazy with this menu. So I'm going to hold down the Option key, and you'll notice how it gives me 2 arrows. And I'm just going to click and drag and make a copy of just this text box. And I'm going to delete the appetizers out of it. And then, again, I'm going to get crazy. I'm going to delete the entrees out of here, which, whoops. Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. There we go. Entrees. Dessert. There we go. Something weird was happening. And then, but I still want dessert to be up here. So I'm going to close up this text box until it bumps dessert up here. And then I'll just close up this one as well, just so they're even. And then maybe I want to take the word entrees, take it out of this text box, draw another text box, and maybe center it. Oops, helps if I had it selected. There we go. And maybe put that here. Make, oh, I hate when things run off the screen. You can either like hit back a million ways, like until you can see, like zoom out to pull it up, or what you can do is up here in the height, just change the height to something shorter. Like I'm going to change it to 5. But then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to close this up to here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to draw another text box in this column. Take my black arrow tool, click, and bring that text up here. And I might add in an extra set of returns just to make it even. And I have that. See how I have the red box again? There's some. Don't know why it does this sometimes. There's technically Nothing there. There we go. Close that up. All right. And then I'm going to run my small type just along the bottom. Again, keeping it within my margin. So I want to make sure that my two text boxes are lined up, which it looks like they are. And I can check that by clicking on one, holding down Shift, clicking on the other one, and going to my Align tool and just telling them to align to the tops. And here's another trick that you could even do. If you want to get like really crazy, which, you know, I would, because why not? Sometimes what I'll do is I'll bring a text box over here. And I want to make sure, like, even though I took out entrees, I might even copy in where it should have been. And copy this in where it should have been. And line it up. You can do that by dropping a rule right from the ruler. So it should have been right here. I'm off a little bit. So I'm going to move it up. And then this is lined up because it's on my grid. So it ended up lining itself up perfectly. And I can just delete that. So again, just to make sure, even though I kind of move things around, it's still technically lined up where it should be. All right, so next I've got the entrees down here, so I might want to find some nice pictures. You guys already have pictures. I need to actually find pictures, but this is a good segue to get into fixing some of the issues that I might have pointed out with your pictures from this week. So I am going to go back to pexels.com and I'm going to start from the beginning. I need something that looks like a chicken meal and maybe a sirloin steak. So I'm going to do sirloin first. That does not look appetizing. Let's just try steak. There, that looks a little bit more appetizing. So I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to download it. And then what else did I need? Maybe like a chicken or chicken and pasta, we'll say. I don't need to know where my chicken came from. Definitely want something that looks fancy. That is not chicken, that is salmon. Might have better luck with the pork tenderloin. Let's try that. Oh, that looks good. There we go. We'll use this one and download it. All right, so I'm going to open up. I need to do this in Photoshop. There's my pork tenderloin. I don't know why it called both of them asparagus barbecue, but okay. Oh, I guess there's asparagus on both. All right, whatever. So first things first, I might have told you that your images needed to be CMYK, not RGB. So to fix that, you need to go into Image Mode, change it from RGB to CMYK, and click OK. for both of these. Image mode, CMYK. And this is going to be for your images for this week, the ones that you've downloaded, because you need to use 2 of those. But it also might have been the images that you did download for your cover. Next thing that you need to do is make sure that they are 300 DPI. Most of the time when you download something, you download it at 72 DPI. So again, go back into image. This time we're going to image size. And where it says 72 DPI, I want to change that to 300. And you'll notice that the size goes down. So it was 83 inches by 55 inches at 72 DPI. Now it's going to be 20 inches by 13 inches at 300 DPI, and hit OK. If you have an image, once you change it to 300 DPI, if it is not at least the 8.5 by 11 that you needed it to be for your entire background, your image is low res and you need to pick another image. And that's where this pexels.com is a good source for finding images. You know, don't kind of kill yourself looking all over the web for something that's going to be high res by just Googling. If you created a background pattern, you may need to save it as CMYK based on how you set it up, but you should have set it up at 300 DPI to begin with in Photoshop. But I can show you that as well. I'll show you that. I'll remake a background as well for this, just so I can show it one more time. So again, you want to make sure that your width and height are within the dimensions that you need it to be. I'll hit OK there. Same thing with this one. I'm going to go to image size. But you can see how the pexels.com images, they're pretty decent sized. Although this one is, once I make it 300 DPI, is only 10 by 6. So this would not be big enough to use as an entire 8.5 by 11 background. So again, you just need to be aware. I'll hit OK. Then I'm going to save these. I'm going to do a save as. I'm going to put them in my week 2 folder that I'm working in. Just plop them right in there. So that might have been one of the comments that I left you this week. And remember, just refer back to that checklist that I gave you. If it had a check mark, you did it correct. If there was an X, that something needs to be fixed. All right. So if you are making a background, a pattern background, which I'll make a different one for this one. Let's go to subtlepatterns.com. Maybe for this one, I want, actually, I kind of like this. Maybe for this one, I want this. I'm just going to change the color of it. So unzip it, open up the PNG file in Photoshop. And kind of zoom in. I want to do our image mode. I need to change it to CMYK. And I am going to double click on that and do a color overlay. Not gray, clearly. And I want it to maybe be based on that color I made. Oh, which is in my, easy enough. It's in my color libraries. Window. Go to my, oh, it says my libraries are open. Oh, here they are. All right. 105, here we go. Double click that and get it in there. And I want color overlay, this color. multiply. Color burn, that'll probably do it. Okay, so I've got the color in. Is it perfect? No, but it'll do. And then I'm going to do edit, define pattern. We'll call it Morocco red. And I can close that out. I'm not going to save it. And then I need to do, this is how you made the pattern to begin with. So remember, the background needs to be bigger than 8.5 by 11 because it needs to extend to the 4 bleed lines. So that might have been a comment I left you as well, that your background does not extend to the bleed. So it needs to be my entire background. Let's see. Whoops. Oh well, let's find that. .75 by 11.25. I want to make sure I'm in print. That's going to give me, and I want it to be CMYK, not RGB, 300 DPI, and I want it to be 8.75 by 11.25. And then I'm going to say edit, fill, pattern. You can choose that Moroccan red pattern, the last one. Hit OK. There we go, and it's all nice and patterned. And I might even want to lighten it up possibly in InDesign. So I'll lighten it up in there as opposed to lighting it up out here. Then I'll do a file save as. So I know it's CMYK and it's 300 DPI. I'm going to name this Moroccan background. And save that. And close it out. So now, delete this box. I'm going to use my rectangle fill tool, frame tool. So remember, I'm putting an image in it. Draw the box, go up to File, Place, and it's gonna bring me to the last time I was working in here. So again, this is why it's important to have things in specific folders so you know exactly where to go to find it. Place that in there, and I want to send this to the back because I drew it on top, but I clearly want it to be sent to the back. So I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And it's a little bit too busy right now. So I have some, I have some options of what I can do. Maybe I want to leave it at 100%, kind of running off into the bleed. That kind of makes sense. But maybe I want to sort of stack a rectangle behind the text, but on top of that. So that might be an option as well. So in order to do that, I want it to kind of be in between where my cut line is and where my margin is. So my margin is set at 0.375. This is going to be some math I'm going to need to do. My margin is at 0.375 and my bleed is at 0.125. So I want to add those together. So it's 0.5 divided by 2 is 0.25. So I should really, set this ruler at 0.25. But that does not look even. It might be, but it's so busy I can't even see. Like, hold on. Close that for a second. That is definitely not in between there. Because this is at 0.375. I use I use squares basically for everything. 0.125, yep. 0.375, yep. And this is 0.5, which in the middle should be here. Yeah, I guess it is. Maybe I really just want it to be in the middle of my 0.375. So that's 0.1875. I should have known that. So I'm going to click on that ruler. Oh, I got it right in the middle. All right. And then I want to do another ruler down at the same exact spot. So I'm just going to kind of draw the ruler and then manually tell it 0.1875. There we go. And then over here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do my weirdo box thing and then draw a ruler to the center of the box because I don't feel like trying to figure out that math. This is like my little trick. I use squares, like I draw squares to match stuff up all the time. And then down here, I'll do the same exact thing. Grab that. Draw a line. There we go. So that should, in theory, I'm gonna have to delete this so I can see what I'm doing. So first things first. First, I'm gonna draw the rectangle that's gonna go behind my text. Here it is. All right. And I'm gonna make that gold color, but maybe like 40% of that gold color. And I still might even change that up. And I'll grab this rectangle and I'm going to say arrange, send to back. And then next I'm going to add in my patterned background. So from bleed line to bleed line, whoops, wrong rectangle. File, place, my background. And I'll select that and I'm going to say send to back. So that feels a little bit better. I might even make this even lighter, maybe even like 20% more. Ooh, that's nice. All right. So again, gives it just a little subtle. A background's not required, but again, it's something that you're designing a menu here, so you want to have all of the different elements that come together to make a great design. It's not required. It's really based on what works best with your menu design. All right, so I have my two images next, and this is another reason why this baseline grid is great, because I can kind of follow this grid to do my line. So I want to make sure that there's some nice spacing in between where my text is going to end. So I'm going to probably place it from this line to the margin to this line, my first box, and I want my second image to be the same exact size. So again, I can select the box, hold down my option key, click and drag, and then bring it over to the side, and that makes an exact copy. So select this box, do a file, place, and I'll grab my first photo, and it's going to be ginormous in there. So I want to go to Object, Fitting, and I want to fit content to frame. And you'll notice it doesn't, oh, wrong button. Didn't fit it proportionally. Hold on. I don't know why that's an option. Fitting. Fit content proportionally. Thank you. And but I want it to extend though. So There's a couple of different ways I can do that. I can grab my white arrow tool and select the content, again, inside of the box, and hold down Shift and Command, and this is if you're kind of used to using InDesign, and I can extend it, and then use my arrow tool to bring it up. And make sure those two numbers are equal. Or you can go to Object, Fitting, and fill frame proportionally. Again, they both do the same thing, but you might want to, bump it up a little bit. I want the item to be centered vertically in the frame. So I'll select the second square with my black arrow tool. Go to File, Place, where are you? Select my second image. Again, it doesn't fit it right in, so I'm gonna go to Object, Fitting, and this time I'm just gonna do Fill Frame Proportionally. And I can double check with my white arrow, click on it, make sure those two numbers match. They do. And let me bring that down just a little bit. I don't need as much of the plate showing as I want, the food to show. Perfect. Zoom out and save. And to me at this point, everything looks good. I think I've kind of got it all in here, and I'm happy with my design. So I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to package it, make that PDF file at the same time, and zip my folder for upload. So I'm going to go to File, Package, and you want to double check, do I have any fonts missing? And again, I have Show Problems Only clicked. Nope. Links and images, looks good. Colors and inks, everything's CMYK. Print setting looks good. All right, hit Package. And I'm going to go and put it in week 2. And make sure you're grabbing the correct naming convention, which is right here. DES 105, assignment 2, underscore your last name. Well, first and last name, please, or at least your first initial in your last name. So, S. McNamara. And then I want to include the PDF, the one that I made last week with that preset, with the marks and bleeds, the all marks. If you didn't do that last week, go back to the live session and make that PDF preset. It's going to, this PDF preset is going to follow you through all of your courses. Every single time that you do anything in InDesign with a bleed, you're going to need to make a PDF that shows the marks and bleeds. So, set up that preset now. It's really just going to save you time in, forever, basically. Because then when you're working as a graphic designer and sending things to the printer, you're going to need to show them where the marks and bleeds are. So definitely set that up. Hit Package. It's going to say warning. Just say, okay. And you can close that out once it's done. Double check everything in your file. So I'm going to go in, find my file in week 2. Here it is, DES 105, assignment 2, S. McNamara. So I should have the IDML file. I should have the InDesign file. My PDF should show my crop mark and my bleed mark. Double check that everything looks good. Sometimes it looks a little bit different, after you make the PDF from InDesign to the PDF. Make sure you're happy with your design, that you're happy with how it came out. Make sure when you go from, page 1 to page 2 that you feel like it has the same feel. I probably would have put a tan, honestly. I probably would have made this Moroccan background, this tan color. but I'm not going to go back and do that now. But in the future, that's probably what I would have done. So make sure that all of your links are there. They should be, because you packaged it correctly. Your fonts that aren't the Adobe fonts should be there. And then you're going to zip this. So select the whole folder. Don't just zip the InDesign file and send it to me. That's not what you need to do. You need to send me the whole folder zipped. So click on the folder, right click, and compress it to get that zip file. And you're going to upload the zip file. And make sure, again, that's where having these folders works, because you know exactly where everything is. And if you choose to, you can add another file and choose just that PDF, so I can leave you comments on the PDF if you would like, and click Submit Assignment. So any questions before we end today? I know that we went over a lot of stuff, so there's a good chance that you're going to need to go back and re-watch the live session as you're working. I definitely suggest that. Also, the readings and videos for week 2 are going to fill in the gaps, you know, where my demo might have been a little bit, you know, a little bit fast, which I get because we only have 2 hours. But any other questions? Oh, great. Oh, good. Yeah, so make sure that you are going back in and looking over your comments that I left you. As I said, there's a checklist that I gave everyone for week 1. And so you're going to want to reference back to that checklist. You know, it was the page size, number of pages, your margin, your bleed. Did you have facing pages unchecked? If you didn't, I told you how to fix that. Did you have the logo, the tagline, the address and hours from the doc file, 2 different menu designs? This is where everyone ran into some problems. Were your images high res, at least 300 DPI, and were they CMYK? So I left you comments if they were not. I only saw maybe 2 PDFs in total that had the crop and bleed marks, which leads me to believe that people have not set up that preset from last week. So please go back and fix that, because that is a requirement that your PDF has those crop and bleed marks. So make sure you go back to the week 1 live session and get that set up. But yeah, just reference back to your checklist, please. Again, I really only think I saw 2 students who had the crop and bleed marks last week. So you guys gotta make sure that you're setting that up, because it's not just this class, it's gonna be every class. And in the higher classes, you lose a lot of points for that. I only took off 4 points this week for that. All right. So I am going to end the recording here. I know a couple of students had asked if they could stay after. That's fine. I'm just going to end our recording, and I'll still be in my Zoom room.